Hey everybody, week 13 is finally here, and I've got some must-start players for you here in week 13. It's another pivotal week here in fantasy football, and a lot of playoff dreams are going to be made or hopes are going to be dashed. And, well, I got some mid-range guys for you. Maybe players that you're on the fence about. You're not sure if they should be in your lineup, out of your lineup. Hopefully this video will encourage you to get them into your starting lineup and make the playoffs in your fantasy league. Now, before I go any further, I want you to hit the thumbs up button, click the bell to subscribe to the channel, and leave your questions about week 13 in the comments below, and I'm going to do my best to get back to each and every one of them. Let's get started. At the quarterback position, I'm looking at Trevor Lawrence going up against the Detroit Lions. Now, recently, Lawrence has been the QB 8 in points per game since week 9, quarterback 7 in total points since week 6, and over the last 3 games, he is averaging over 270 passing yards and 2 touchdowns per game with absolutely 0 interceptions. Now he's going up against the Detroit Lions, who are allowing the most fantasy points to quarterbacks, and they've allowed 8 different quarterbacks. Let me repeat that, 8 different quarterbacks to finish in the top 12. It's as close as you can get to a guarantee that Trevor Lawrence should be a top 12 quarterback this week. So going up against the Detroit Lions, I love Trevor Lawrence as the starting quarterback in your lineup. And by the way, he plays the Tennessee Titans next week, who are also not very good at stopping the pass. So Trevor Lawrence not only going to help you this week, but next week for those playoff aspirations. At running back, I've got a name that maybe some of us have soured on, but I still haven't given up hope. It's Dameon Pierce going up against the Cleveland Browns. And when we look at the Houston Texans team, right, Kyle Allen has been an absolute train wreck, and the Texans have just been awful. Somehow they've gotten worse without Davis Mills, but Dameon Pierce has had multiple bad weeks in a row now where I think that fantasy managers are starting to lose confidence, but this could be and should be the get-right game for him going up against the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Browns are giving up the second most fantasy points to running backs, and guess which team is giving up the most? The Houston Texans. So Browns and Texans going off against each other in a game that should have a lot of run-heavy script. Not to mention the Cleveland Browns, as we all know, are getting Deshaun Watson back, and it means they'll likely be taking it slow, leaning on that run game a lot. This is one of those games where I think that each team is going to look to make life easier for their QBs. Deshaun Watson being rusty and Kyle Allen just not being very good at football. So you could see a lot of volume for Dameon Pierce here against the Cleveland Browns. I think you can be comfortable firing up Dameon Pierce in your starting lineup. Now, another running back that I really like this week is David Montgomery going up against the Green Bay Packers. It's just a couple really simple things. Khalil Herbert remains sidelined. He's been on IR and he's still there. Without Khalil Herbert, David Montgomery has been the running back 6 against Atlanta and the running back 21 against a tough New York Jets defense. Now, the Packers are giving up the 4th most fantasy points to running backs, and David Montgomery is not only going to have the volume, but he's going to have a good opponent. This is a talented player. Don't overthink this. David Montgomery absolutely needs to be in your starting fantasy lineups in week 13. All right, the third running back that I'm looking at here is Isaiah Pacheco going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, on the surface, the Bengals aren't exactly a really good matchup for running backs, but the last 2 times the Chiefs have played the Bengals, they've gotten out to an early lead, and they just simply weren't able to sustain that lead because they couldn't run the ball effectively. Now, Isaiah Pacheco has really turned the corner for this Chiefs backfield, and he's had 15 or more carries in each of the last 3 games while averaging nearly 5 yards per carry. Now, Jerick McKinnon dealing with an injury. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has already been placed on IR, and I know some people out there might be worried about Melvin Gordon, but I mean, come on. He couldn't hold off Latavius Murray. He got cut by the Denver Broncos. I get it that we kind of hold on to names, but Isaiah Pacheco is the lead back in this offense, and it's a good offense. And this is a game that, well, might potentially have a lot of scoring with the Bengals going up against the Chiefs. So I am perfectly happy with starting Isaiah Pacheco, especially because of that touchdown potential and the type of volume that he is getting. All right, I've got a bonus running back here for you, and this is all really contingent on whether or not Najee Harris plays. Right now, it looks like Najee Harris will not play going up against the Atlanta Falcons, so that means Jaylen Warren absolutely is a must start in your lineups no matter what. if Najee Harris is out. Jaylen Warren is one of the few Pittsburgh Steelers running backs that is actually healthy. He has been great in the running game and equally as good in the passing game. So Jaylen Warren going up against the Atlanta Falcons. The Steelers are finally favored to win a game against this bad Atlanta Falcons team, who, oddly enough, they've been winning, but they're still just not very good. Now, Atlanta's horrible against fantasy running backs. They're 27th in adjusted run defense and 25th in fantasy points allowed to running backs. So if Jaylen Warren gets the start here, I would absolutely throw him into your starting lineup. All right, at the wide receiver position, I'm talking about Garrett Wilson going up against the Minnesota Vikings. This is just a really simple one. Just like I said with David Montgomery, don't overthink these good players in good situations, okay? Garrett Wilson going up against the Minnesota Vikings. Listen, when he's been without Zach Wilson, Garrett Wilson has been really, really good. Okay, he's averaging 19 and a half PPR points per game without Zach Wilson. He's finished as a top 5 wide receiver in 2 out of those 4 games that he's played without Zach Wilson. I think you're starting to see a trend here. Now he's going up against the Minnesota Vikings, who are giving up the 7th most fantasy points to wide receivers. So yes, if you have Garrett Wilson, he absolutely needs to be in your lineup this weekend. Don't overthink it. I know you've got Mike White starting at quarterback, and listen, this could be the week where Mike White just, gives you a fat goose egg, or he just turns into a pumpkin, whatever it may be. But trust in the talent of Garrett Wilson and look at that juicy matchup for him going up against the Minnesota Vikings. All right, another name that I've just been repeating here at the wide receiver position, and it's Joshua Palmer of the Los Angeles Chargers going up against the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, there's still no Mike Williams, and it's been a little up and down for Joshua Palmer over the last 4 weeks, I'll admit that, but he's had 3 top 24 finishes in his last 5 games. Now, the stats look pretty good. Joshua Palmer, he's averaging 6 receptions on nearly 9 targets per game with a 13-yard per catch average. That's pretty solid. So if Mike Williams is out, it's pretty much a transitive property. Mike Williams out, Josh Palmer should be in your lineups. It's really that simple. The Chargers and the Raiders both allow an average of 25 points per game to opposing offenses, and this honestly should just be one of those crazy type of shootout games. Lots of passing and lots of really bad defense. So I'm very, very comfortable this week throwing Joshua Palmer into my wide receiver 3 or flex spot in my starting lineup. All right, the last guy I want to talk about here is Zay Jones, wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars, going up against the Detroit Lions. Now, listen, I talked about Trevor Lawrence being a great start against the Lions, and by that same thought process, Zay Jones has to be a great start. Jones absolutely went off. He lit up the Baltimore Ravens last week and finished as the wide receiver 4 overall in PPR. And well, at this point, he has just proven to be Trevor Lawrence's top target there in Jacksonville. And I think at the beginning of the season, it started out to be Christian Kirk. And as time has gone on, it's really turned into the Zay Jones show over there. He's averaging 6 receptions on 8 targets per game with the Jacksonville Jaguars and with Trevor Lawrence in the lineup. The Lions are giving up the 3rd most fantasy points to wide receivers. And listen, if I was a betting man, I'm not really, but if I was a betting man, I'd be betting on another top 24 finish from Zay Jones this week. It's just another great situation where opportunity and talent meet a bad matchup where, yeah, the fantasy points should be flying. Now, last guy. No, you know what? No, I'm not going to do it. I was going to say Drake London, but I won't. You can't do it. I don't care how good the matchup is. I don't care that there's no Kyle Pitts. Honestly, everyone on the offense could just be injured, and I still would not mention Drake London as a starting wide receiver. I just can't do it. I have been trusting him, and I'm done with the Falcons and Arthur Smith, and I love the talent of Drake London, but I just can't recommend that anyone put him in their starting lineup. So good luck, everybody, here in Week 13. Go get that W. Hope to see you all in the playoffs. See you next week.